Joe's Night of Shadows. The moon hung heavy in the sky, casting a pale glow over the dense jungle. Joe tightened the straps of his worn leather pack, his mind set on his goal. Tonight was the night he'd strike it rich, or so he told himself. The howls of wolves and the eerie cries of werewolves echoed in the distance, but Joe, fueled by determination and a strange sense of invincibility, was undeterred. "It's just me tonight," Joe had declared to the townsfolk before setting off. "Some jobs, you gotta do alone." Hours later, deep within the jungle, Joe found himself in a place that seemed to have been forgotten by the sun. Towering trees blocked out the moonlight, and strange shadows loomed around him. Every rustle of leaves and crack of branches sent his heart racing. "Nothing will conquer me tonight," Joe muttered under his breath, though his voice lacked the confidence he hoped to project. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, bathed in a soft, unearthly light. It was a woman, her beauty so extraordinary it seemed to ripple through the air like an enchanting melody. Joe's breath caught in his throat. She looked so fine, Joe thought, his mind fogging as he stared. Almost mesmerizing. He took a step closer, unable to tear his eyes away from her. Her hair shimmered like waves of night, and her features were so perfect they seemed unreal. I just want to see her," Joe whispered, drooling slightly as he succumbed to the trance of her beauty. "Get away from her!" A sudden shout broke the spell, jolting Joe back to reality. Startled, he turned to see a dwarf, barely reaching his waist, with a frantic expression and a polished mirror in hand. "Don't look directly at her," the dwarf warned. "That's Medusa, you fool!" Joe's stomach dropped as he caught a glimpse of her shadow, coils of writhing snakes crowning her head. His heart pounded like a war drum, and a chilling fear gripped him. What is this black magic?" Joe stammered, backing away in terror. "Stay behind me," the dwarf shouted. "And don't look." The dwarf raised the mirror, angling it toward Medusa. Her hypnotic beauty gave way to a piercing shriek as her own reflection met her gaze. She flailed, hissing, and vanished into the shadows with an ear-splitting cry. Silence fell over the jungle. Joe sank to his knees, trembling as the overwhelming fear began to ebb away. "Are you okay?" the dwarf asked, his voice softer now. Joe nodded weakly, though his body still quivered. "The hate, the anger, it's leaving me," he said. "But I'm still scared. And part of me." Joe hesitated, his voice barely a whisper. "Part of me loved her." The dwarf gave him a knowing look, helping him to his feet. "That's her curse. She's designed to lure you in, to make you feel like you'd do anything for her, even at the cost of your life. But she's not real, Joe. Not the way you want her to be." "What's your name?" Joe asked, grateful for his savior. "Call me Lucky," the dwarf said with a grin. "And lucky you are. You'd be stoned right now if I hadn't shown up." Joe managed a shaky laugh. "Yeah, thanks, Lucky." As the two made their way back to the village, Joe couldn't shake the memory of her. That beauty, so haunting yet irresistible, lingered in his mind like a dream he wished he could forget. He glanced at Lucky, who whistled a cheerful tune despite the dangers they'd just faced. Joe envied the dwarf's easy demeanor. "Hey, Lucky," Joe said, "do you think she'll come back?" "Not tonight," Lucky replied, "and if she does, we'll be ready. But for now, let's get you home. A pint of ale and a warm bed will do wonders for that fear of yours." Joe nodded. But as they walked, a tiny ember in his heart still burned for Medusa. She was terrifying, deadly, and utterly captivating, and though he'd never admit it, part of him hoped he might see her again.